All right. Welcome back to our weekly roundup podcast. It's just the two of us today, Mel. It's just you and me.
We bucked those other guys off.
We kicked them out. I love. It's kind of nice just seeing one other person to talk to, as opposed to trying to introduce all four people. This might be a treat.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So this is our weekly podcast where the coaches get together to answer all the questions, dive deeper into some of the stuff that came up with our productivity agents this week, talk about what's going on in the market, any insight we can share. And this week in particular, with it being Family Reunion Week, we wanted to take the time to talk about how we approach continuing our education, training, sharing some things that we've learned along the way in terms of how you approach that so that you're not getting bogged down in what I always call it being the professional student, because I've seen a lot of agents go down that road where it's like the one person that you never see in any production, but they're at every training class, right?
Yes, that happens so much.
It does happen a lot. And I think even 2 episodes ago, we were talking about, man, I just want some time back in my week. We had the symposium that week. We had the KWRI event. We have our own coaches, our own training that we're going to. And it's like, when do I find time to get work done? And your quote was my favorite. Sorry, guys, I can't make it. I've got to call my database.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think let's kind of just jump into that. Mel, you're already down there. The other 2 coaches are traveling as we speak, which is why they aren't here today. So why don't we just dive into a little bit about, okay, you're coming into now a week of training, specifically one where there's a lot of different topics. There's some main stage events. How are you approaching it so that you kind of leave with a benefit, right? Like, is that a fair place to start? Why don't we just start with reunion and then we'll already off from there?
Yeah, because with reunion, I mean, it seems this year specifically, there are a lot of breakouts. There always are. You know, the difference between family reunion and mega camp, which is in August. Family reunion, you are the traveler. You have to travel to the training, and there are so many for you to choose from. And it feels like, I mean, it's FOMO, right? It feels like if I'm going to miss it, if I go to this one, what am I missing? And that's what you're looking at. What am I missing? As opposed to what I'm attempting to do, because I was just telling Dylan before we started, is, okay, for the breakout one, which is from 2:30 to 3:45, by the way, it's very short. It's however long that is, just over an hour. Yep. I've shortened it to 10 sessions. I've shortened it. So I've taken it down about halfway to 10 that I want to go to. And obviously there's no possible way you can do that. So instead of playing it from the FOMO perspective, I'm attempting to say, okay, what is the thing that I need to know the most right now in order to move the needle in my business? And that's the approach I'm going to take, because I'm going to tell you there are like a lot of those subjects I know would be beneficial for me to know about, but I can't learn everything, and I certainly am not going to implement everything. Yeah. So taking it from that perspective, because there's a lot of things I'd love to know about, but what do I need right now, like right now in my business?
That one breakout time is a great analogy for how training is in general. Like, let's zoom out, and all of a sudden there's 40 things that you can go learn about today. And there's all these webinars on Facebook. There's all these Zoom things. There's what's going on in our brokerage. There's what's going on in the coaching program. So let's say that at any given time, you've got a breakout session time slot that you're able to pack in your training for the day, and you've got 40 options. Now, how do we narrow it down and choose? And I love what you're talking about is like, okay, first I need to, before I even look at some of that stuff, I just need to decide, I need to take a minute to myself and be like, what do I need to focus on? What do I need in my business right now? And then what I'll do is I'll look at that book and see, okay, now I've picked out 10 that scratch the surface for that, or they're in the same topic or whatever. And then maybe from there you can focus.
Yeah, right? It's so true, because I went to Mega Camp for the first time this last August, and I had no idea what to expect. So I went to Mega Camp. I got home immediately. I got my ops team together, and I'm like, okay, you guys just stand there and start writing sticky notes and put them all over the wall. And I'm going to go through everything. And at the end, we had 2 poster boards full of sticky notes. Now, those 2 poster boards full of sticky notes are rolled up in the corner of in my office, right? Because they're all fantastic and great ideas and things to implement, but it wasn't relevant to what I needed right at that moment. And so
Yes.
it's not like it's wasted. It's there. I have the information. I know who to contact to get it, but it is a diversion. Like
Yeah.
training in general, especially when you're looking, when just for our agents, right?
Yep.
Forget
Yep.
about family.
That's our audience, right? That's who we want to help
Yeah.
today.
If you're looking at all of those trainings and, oh, your friend is going to this one, and so you really want to go to this one and experience it, we really are bombarded. It's like, what's
Mhm.
that old game? Asteroids? It's like asteroids. You can turn on your computer and you are going to get tons of invitations, via email through the calendars. Excuse me. But you really want to, if you don't take control of that, you will be on a slippery slide of training. And like you said, we both know agents who love to attend, and they are all great trainings.
Yeah, I think as well, like the piece of advice that I would give there is like, let's make sure that we are being focused on what is it that I need to learn right now. Because
Yeah.
it's like going to the grocery store or the restaurant when you're already hungry and you look at the menu and you're like, well, all of these look good, right? But now let's say that you were on a fitness goal, like your goal was fitness.
You had
Instead
to
of
bring that
looking-
up, didn't you, Dylan? Thanks.
instead of looking at the menu first and then being like, oh, get swayed a certain way, be like, okay, I've got a fitness goal, so I'm going to be looking for this, this, and this. That's what I know is going to help me get closer to my goal. Now let's see if that's on the menu, as opposed to being like, okay, well, I got this invite, and I got that invite. Which one should I go to? Maybe you should go to none of them, right? Maybe like if none of them are helping you get closer to your goal, then that's the thing you got to remove. And sometimes, this is a big reunion one for sure, is you feel like they're all good. They're all going to help you. But if you can't implement it, if you like, readily, as soon as I leave this, I can start taking steps to make this a thing that will actually help me get to my goal, then again, what's the point?
A really good thing, because I totally agree with you. And I'm just thinking of this now as we're talking, but I'm thinking about like my last Tony Robbins event. And there was so many good things. And I brought them back and of course spent 5 hours. I always have to, my poor ops team. Every time I go to these things, they brace themselves when I get back. It's like, oh my God, here comes a tornado.
Yeah.
But it ended up to be 2 or 3 that I really filtered out and shared with the team. So maybe if the people think, first and foremost, you have to start where you said, which is what do I want to implement right now? What is that next area of growth for me? And then learn it like you are going to teach it when you get back. And I would even recommend to people, like we have so many opportunities at the brokerage. We'd love to see, and you grow so much when you take something you've learned and you share it with someone else. So almost put that in your mind. Say, you know what, whatever I do, I'm going to do it focused. Because we always know, like lasers are focused for a reason. That's when the hole gets drilled, right? Not if it's all over the place. And either share it with some of your peers or the brokerage, or just learn it as if you were. And that's my best advice. And I know it's so difficult to do that, but our drawers, Dylan, do you have drawers full of information that you've never implemented?
Yes. Yeah. Books, drawers, big boxes, all kinds. I've still got bold books that we've kept because there's a ton of great little nuggets in there. And like each bold was different. I might have got a nugget from the guy sitting beside me, not from the course itself. And that's why I don't want to get rid of them. But I haven't done anything with a lot of it, right? Because maybe some of that's on me and some of it's also because like, hey, that's a great idea, but it might put me in the wrong direction.
Yes, and people think for some reason, I only say this because I know I thought that, is that if it's offered, you should. If you want to be a good realtor, you should be attending. If you're not attending, you're not a good realtor, right? Like you need that information to succeed. And I find that a more difficult thing to dissect, right? Because especially for a new agent, you're really not sure what you're supposed to be an expert at.
Yes.
So, and when you hear someone like myself or yourself or Wayne Clement saying, this is the course you got to attend, you just say, okay, I'm going to attend.
I'm going to go. Right? Yeah. So I think pulling back, I would say that would be the next tip. If you don't know, the first tip obviously being get clarity so that you know that's how you're going to pick your course. But if you don't know, I'd say don't be afraid, especially at the beginning, to start wide. You can cast a wide net, kind of audit a couple of things, and that's really easy to do at Reunion. It's really easy to do back home and online. Check out a few things, but you can't stay there for long. You can't stay with the wide net for long. You've got to sample everything a little bit, get kind of a view of what it is, and then start narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. So there are times where, it's like, I don't know. That's a great tip, Mel. I'm gonna sit down and have a moment and figure out what's most important to me. And if I still don't know it at that time because I'm just not getting the guidance or I just really don't know, then auditing a little bit is okay. Have you ever been in that space where you're like, I just need to get exposure? I've got the growth mindset. I feel like I've taken care of me, but now I need exposure to figure out what it is that's the path that I want to go.
100%. I remember breaking into a YP event. It was kind of cool because I did break into it. I somehow was on, they said that there was some discount code. And so I went to their website and I'm like, how the hell is their discount code? And then there was like something buried deep in where it said, all you members use this code and you'll get like 75% off. So I just used the code. I am definitely not a young professional. So I used the code and I got the discount. So I'm like, I'm going to that event. But that was such a broad net, but it also was a TSN turning point for me, that broad discovery, because it just had what I needed to hear. And it was specifically, I'll never forget, I can't remember who it was, but it was a much older gentleman who was a realtor, and he was taking bold or some training for the like 19th time. And that like poof, like really, because I think at that time I was always looking for completion. I was always looking for, okay, what's the next step I can take until I'm educated? Where's that end of that education that I'm searching for? And that was the first moment where I was like, oh, there is no end. Like there is no end. You're constantly exploring. So then you realize, okay, well, I can't possibly do it all myself. A great thing is take some shortcuts. You went to that Mark King thing, right? And I did not. I did not go to it, but Mike Russo shared the slides with us. And so I was able to go through those slides, and you and I were talking, and it sounds like I got just as much out of that slide presentation as if I had eaten up those 6 hours and gone to the event.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
Yep.
So, and I know like family reading, so many, if there's something you can't go to, ask the presenter if there's slides, or ask someone you know who went and get those slides. Have a conversation and trade information. It's like a Cole's Notes version to the best, and you'll determine really quickly whether that's something you need right now or not. But really follow your gut and look at what you need. It's like anything, right? It's like going to an ice cream store and there's all those flavors, just like you said with the restaurant. You can't have an ice cream cone with all of them. You have to choose. And we don't like to choose because we always think we're being left out. But it's so important. And no one really told me that when I started. Like I said, I really believed my job was to go to absolutely everything, learn as much as I could. And until that time, I wasn't a professional realtor. And that's just not true.
Yeah, it goes back to like the jack of all trades, master of none almost, right? Like if you're just being too broad and getting I got a little bit of a door knocking one, then I got a little bit of a open houses one, then I got a little bit of expansion team, then I got a little bit of personal mindset, and like you're all over the place. And it's like where's your focus, right? Because if you really want to get good at something, you got to be focused on just that one thing. Let's call it for the next 66 days, right? And just then you adapt something new instead of trying to constantly take on new stuff.
You're bringing up, because you actually are bringing, and where to start from there, because I'm thinking as we're talking about this, but if I'm a new agent listening to us, well, how do I even know what that looks like? Like, how do I know? So, and that's why I will tell you, a coach is so important. And I'm not saying that because we are coaches. I literally am saying that is with, like, Jen was the TSN turning point. I had so many, but Jen was definitely a huge one for me. There is no way that I would be where I am now if I didn't have if I didn't have Jen to coach me and to show me, like, when I was scared or fearful or was unsure. She had the questions to ask me, to help me discover what it was that I wanted, to provide me that clarity. And I honestly think that is exactly where you should start, is a coach. And I don't even know if people know that they can reach out to coaches. Like we have those specific programs, right, at
Yeah.
our brokerage.
Yep.
But you can reach out, ask anyone to be your mentor or be a coach because you need someone who has been there and knows those questions to ask
Hmm.
so you can develop that clarity
Yes.
because there's the pond is so wide, and if you're just going to swim alone and bounce off banks, it'll be a long painful process
Hmm.
where that coach sort of helps you see the lane in that pond where you want to swim, and then everything starts to become much clearer.
Yeah, without that, again, without that clarity, and sometimes you do need someone to help you find that clarity because you aren't equipped with the tools to do so. Like that's why coaches have coaches, right? You know,
100%.
all high achievers have coaches, and so I think that acknowledging that is probably step one. That's a great way to, like, if you want to hack, if you want a life hack, like you want a success hack, get a coach, right? And
For
engage
anything.
that coach. Yeah.
Yeah, for anything that you want to do. I mean, we know so many people who, if they want to run a marathon, they get a coach. Like if
Yep.
they want to be a realtor, they get a coach. Like, but if that was in the muggle world, like I like to
Yeah.
say, people who aren't realtors in the muggle world,
Yeah.
um, that's not really known so much, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So everyone thinks we have to do it alone, right?
Yeah. And
Especially I love realtors who don't want to join teams. You know what? I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to do it myself, right? And I get that, but that's an ego thing as well without
mhm.
exploring all the options, right? I'm not saying everyone has to join a team, but for sure explore all the options before you think you have to do it a certain way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think I mean, KW says that right away at the beginning in the MREA, success leaves clues. Like you don't need to reinvent the wheel each time. It's the success is there. Just do what others have done even, right? Go read the MREA, follow the models. Like it's all there to do. So you don't have to be ping ponging around trying to figure it all out, right?
Yeah. We were having a conversation earlier today, though, and now this kind of loops back into that, which is, forget about all these trainings. You have all of these things, but just life in general, like being present. I said, here I am. I came out here 2 days early so I could relax and I could have some focus time. And I couldn't wait. When I was at home, I couldn't wait to get here. And I get here and like nobody's here. And now
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what's going on at home? And I'm
Yeah.
like all worried about that. And being present, I love that saying, like wherever you are or wherever you go, there you are. Right? And
Yeah.
so wherever you go, there you are. You think that the place, or you think that the course, or you think that this thing is going to change you. And don't let it take 40 years, people. Like for you to realize that, oh, it's not those things. It's what's in here, that matters. It's my mind. And you may not have control over your brain. We talk about that a lot. Your brain is going to
Mhm.
consistently try to protect you, but you do have control over your mind and learning to grab that control and really being where you are. It's so hard. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah, I agree. And that's why it's so funny because you're away, you're finally you're excited to get there and you think you're going to take all this time to yourself. And then you and I are on WhatsApp texting away. And I agree 100% because I'm in that same boat as I'm trying to continue to grow my business, our coaching company, grow as a father, grow as a partner. The one thing that I've really missed out on in the last year that I've kind of lost the good habit of is taking the time to be present with myself and reflect on, okay, what's important right now? What's the outcome? This is Mel's thing for 2023. What's the outcome that I want? And without taking the time to do that, I find that I've ping ponged a little bit from one focus to the next, as opposed to being as purposeful as I was in the past because I took the time to do that exercise. And going back to this topic of today of like, how do you focus on the training? One of the best things I ever remember implementing at family reunion, because the first year I didn't know what I wanted. I cast a wide net. I had a few that obviously stuck out, but overall I was casting a wide net. And I listened to the experienced agents and like, you got to go to this one, you got to check out this one. And thankfully I was guided well because most of those, it was about the speaker more than the content.
Yes.
So like I saw Jay Papasan for the first time, saw Tony DiCello, like all those guys, and I was like, this okay, that was really cool. They were really great people to listen to. But what I used to do back then was I would sit down after, I would look at my notes and I would think about, okay, what does this mean to me now? Because I cast my wide net. I didn't go in with clarity, but I'm reviewing everything and I'm at least taking the time now to dissect it and say, okay, this is something that was cool, but it's not for me. This is something that I can see myself doing. What's my next step? Right. And for me, at the time, it was open houses. And, you know, that year, my business blew up because of doing open houses. So it was so cool that that one like class that I was in, they had so many nuggets. The people that we were sitting beside, like networking, I think of these things is really important because you hear somebody else that's always excited to brag about what they're doing. They're like, yeah, we already do that. And we do this too. And you're like, wow.
That's so, you want them to brag about themselves.
Yeah, please brag. I need to hear all your amazing ideas because I want to go back and implement them. So I think that, you know, talking about being present, for me, one of the things, my focus on being present is also being present with myself and taking the time to reflect on, okay, what training is important? What's the outcome that I'm looking for here? Okay, this is my next challenge. What do I have to do first to get over that hump so that I can actually get to where I want to be? And if you're not taking that downtime to answer those questions and to ask yourself those questions, sometimes just asking the question to yourself is enough to get you there, right? And so I think that that's something.
You bring up a super, super good point. And I do it when I come away. Like, you know, when you come away to family reunion, like I usually will, if I'm going away to a training, I always arrive a day earlier so I can settle in and get, you know, used to what it is. And I always stay a day later. And it's not because I want to enjoy the sunshine or I want to do, it's because I need a buffer between where I am headspace wise and where I'm going. Because as soon as I land, it's going to be crazy. So I take that time to go back over my notes and ask those questions to yourself, because so often we're like, okay, check, done, back on the roller coaster. But having that time, and if you're just at the brokerage doing a training, it really is probably the best piece of advice is what you're saying, which is now you've done that, take an hour or two after that and really review what you did and listen to yourself and ask yourself those questions and then put it aside or start implementing, one of the two.
It's so funny too, because when you go away, you know why you're so much more effective while you're there than when you're at home is because you're in a different environment. Your usual triggers for those bad habits, they're not around you, right? I don't need to. You're not with your. This is a bad pivot from the the bad habit part, but you're not with your spouse or your family where you're like, I need to get ready for dinner. I need to do this. I need to do that. No, I can sit in my hotel room for 20 minutes and I can just think about what I took in today, right? And so there's a lot of benefit to that downtime. And I love how you mentioned, like at the brokerage, hey, maybe stick around in the training room for 20 minutes and just reflect on what you just learned and figure out how you're going to implement it, right? Like, because if you go to a training and you don't walk away with a plan on how you're going to implement what you just learned, then what was the purpose of the training? And I feel like that's one of the things, like I'm guilty of it too. We're not sitting here preaching. We're just sharing the good ideas on how you can get the most out of this. Where I've gone to a training, loved it, and I didn't take the time to write my action steps. I still know I've got that knowledge banked for when I need it, but I didn't leave ready to implement that. And what would my business look like if I had? Could I have gotten 2 more deals from implementing one postcard idea that I got? Probably, right? So it's about one small action that you can commit to will give you that bigger result down the road. And we don't need to think about doing 50 deals. What's that one thing that you can do that give you 2 more deals?
That's right. And we talked about this earlier too, but you don't get to discover it, and it's no fun when you discover it until you're actually alone and you don't, like at home, it's so easy for me to say, well, I can't possibly because I'm running a team, I'm coaching, I've got a family, I'm doing all these things, I'm on the ALC, I can't, well, of course I can't do that. And then I was telling Dylan, I arrived here yesterday, brought my workout clothes that I never had time for because I'm always with clients. All of these things that I could have been doing, and yet I didn't do them. And it's a harsh reality to say, but it's a good one too, right? To really say, wait a broken. It's not because I'm so busy at home. It's not because of all of these things. There's something else. That's the the mask
Yes.
is that I'm too busy. What is happening? What else is happening? Because it definitely isn't that. Because like I showed you that video of the pool and not a single soul was there. So it certainly isn't that I'm getting pulled in a bunch of places.
Yeah.
There's something else going on.
Yeah.
And I think we all fall into that.
100%. It's funny because it's like that's coming face to face with the real reality. When something that stark happens in our day to day, it's so easy to mask that, to hide it, to be like, oh no, I've got all these valid reasons on why I couldn't have done that. But then you get into that situation where it's so blatantly obvious that you're like, oh, I've got the opportunity to do that right now and I'm not doing it. So there is an underlying thing that I need to discover.
Dylan, I just had a huge aha. I was texting Dylan earlier this morning saying like, this is like, I'm just so uncomfortable. Well, I know why I'm uncomfortable because there's nobody here that I can mask that with.
Mask it with, yes.
That is uncomfortable. Like I'm like, hurry up, Jen, because then I have to go see Jen.
I can't go work out now. My people have landed.
But it's true, right? Like I'm having an aha moment right now.
Yeah, I love that.
Terrible.
That feeling of uncomfortability. And I think like that happens for a variety of reasons. But I think that when we're confronted with realizing that we know we're not doing what we should be doing or what we said we would do, you get that uncomfortable feeling. And I think this happens a lot with agents surrounding lead generation, right? Because you know you're supposed to be doing it. You know you should pick up the phone and make those 10, 20 contacts, 40 contacts, whatever it is for you to reach your goal. And if you're not doing it and there's no good excuse why you're not doing it, you get uncomfortable. And I think that that's such a great aha that you shared because that's where that uncomfortability comes from. And we know that when you make your calls, how great you feel afterwards because you're like, I did the thing that I said I would do and that I know I should do. And it feels so good.
You've just drilled right down to the core of it. Because being busy is, and people love, me included, love to say when we're so busy, right? So busy, oh, busy. Couldn't do that busy. But we're busy. I guess I'll speak for myself, but I know you all feel the same way too. Like you create chaos because that way you just don't have time to do what you need to do.
Yeah, right? Totally. Yeah, forget letting external influences come in. I'm sure that there's times out there where we all create that thing, right? We create the chaos, as you said, so that we don't have to do it. And that's little things like, well, I've got to go put up that sign, or I've got to go move this thing, or I've got to go do that. And it's like, well, no, you don't need to do that right now. That doesn't need to get done between your 9 to noon lead gen time, right? There's a lot of other time that you could do that, or you could hire somebody to do a lot of the things. There's so many reasons that we create to avoid the thing that we don't want to do.
And realize that you're going to go to a course. You're going to, look, I'm paying all this money to go to Tony. And I walk out of that and I'm like, yes, got bull by the horns. But this is a never ending thing. It doesn't correct it. You're not ever going to learn, or at least I'm not, you're not ever going to learn that one thing or go to that one course or have that self-realization. And then you're going to be set. Right? And it'll never come back. It seems like it ebb and flows consistently. You have to be aware of it,
Yeah. And I think one of the ways that a lot of top producers in particular look at things like reunion and look at things like training is we have to fill up our tank of motivation, inspiration, and all that stuff. Like it's not on demand. Motivation is not an on demand thing. You have to fuel it. You have to get excited, right? And training events, especially good ones, are one of the best ways to do that, right? So that you come home from family union, you're all jazzed up. And if that gives you the fuel to go out and kick butt for the next 60 to 90 days so that next quarter is absolutely phenomenal, then that's money well invested. You almost don't even need to walk away with a nugget. You're obviously going to do that because you're going to go in purposefully. You're going to listen to it. I guarantee you could walk into any breakout and you're going to get something that you can take away from it.
Oh, yeah.
Just that good, right? But the point is that just coming back.
But that's the appetizer, right?
Exactly. And then coming back and being excited for your business maybe you knew that you're like, hey, my thing is online webinars, right? That's where I make my bread and butter. I'm so good at it, blah, blah, blah. You go down and you see everybody achieving at a high level. All these panels are full of people that are doing really big things. And you're like, I don't care that they're doing it through open housing. I love their mindset. The way they look at blowing up their business through open houses, I'm going to do that through online webinars.
Yes.
And that's one of the other great things that I'll say in a lot of training, why we continually go back to training, is because I want to see what other great people are doing. I want to see the people that got big visions, have growth. I want to be side by side with that success, because I know that's going to help me take my next step to wherever it is that I need to go, right? I don't need to be at their level. They might be on step 10 and I'm on step 3, but if I get something from them that gets me to step 4, oh, I'm excited.
That's why you said it earlier, and I remember my first family reunion, and the advice I got from the other agents as well had less to do with the topics and had a lot to do with the speakers.
Yes.
And it's like, it doesn't matter what this guy's teaching. Who gives a shit? Oh, who cares? Just go and watch him, and that's what it is, right? It's I think that's what it is. It's the excitement that people have and the energy they bring to what they do. I don't care what they do. I remember this guy, honestly, this is a true story, but it's way off topic, but I was in probation when I first got it. Not on probation, by the way. I was in probation when I first got out of university, and I went down to Toronto to watch oh my God, not a coroner. What are the people that cut people up? What are they? What are those people?
Sorry, what did you say? I'm like, we're on probation. There's a coroner.
Who's the people that cut people up?
Like a magician?
Are you when you're dead and they're
yeah. I'd still say a coroner.
Yeah, but it's not. It's something else. But anyway, forensic, whatever.
The guys that do the autopsies.
Yeah, that's right. So we had to go down and watch him. I have no idea why, actually, now thinking about it, why that had to do with probation, but I was a probation officer. So then I'm watching this, and this guy was making the most, like, he's doing an autopsy, and he's making what he thinks is the funniest jokes ever. And I'm like sitting there like horrified.
Mortified.
And he's a mortician.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway, but the whole point was, it was his presentation and the way he did, and whatever, he did that because that's the way he got through that. But I became fascinated just with this guy. Who cared that there was blood? Hopefully, maybe shouldn't use this part, but it was. But I say, it's the person who does it, if they're captivating, they cutting up dead bodies, and it would be interesting and give you motivation.
That was a long walk for the talk about, hey, a good presenter will give you a lot, whether it's the topic or not, right?
I can't get this guy out of my head, cutting up dead bodies and cutting up jokes at the same time.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a lot for our agents to chew on for today. I think if anything we're going to take away from what we shared in terms of helping people with their training is, like, you don't need to go to everything. Get very clear on what you need to implement into your business, and go find the person that's talking about that. Always reach out to a coach. They will help you self-discover what you're looking for. We're not necessarily talking about, there are mentors out there as well. Like, we always go through coaching skills and talk about, maybe it's not a coach that you need. Maybe you need a mentor or a consultant, but a coach will always help you self-discover and then find the game plan to take those steps forward.
Yeah, and all of that stuff, I challenge everybody, no matter what stage they're at right now, because I need to do it, you need to do it. We talked about it on this, is start with clarity. Start with clarity. Pull away from this podcast and then say, what am I striving for? What is my clarity? What is my next move? And what, my famous word for 2023, what is the outcome? At the end of this year, what do I want to say, yes, I achieved that and I did that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we hope that you all got something out of today's podcast. I feel like we've said 3 or 4 times that we've got something out of it. We had a couple big aha moments. And as Mel mentioned, if you all can reach out to us, whoever's listening to this show, if you want somebody to sit down and talk through, or you need a little insight into how your business is running, or you want a little bit of guidance, do not hesitate to reach out. That's why we're here. That's one of our passions, all four of us. I'll speak for
Yeah.
Jen and Mike while they're not here as well. So do not hesitate to reach out. We'd love to talk to you. And we release an episode every Thursday, so check us out. We are on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And you can find us by searching Productivity Success Network and the Weekly Roundup. All right, Mel. Amazing. I know you and I are going to talk again soon. I want some of those nuggets that you're walking away with. But other than that, I will see you when you're back.
Sounds awesome.
Take care.
Bye, guys.